Hello and welcome to the Cool Podcast. This is Samuel Ryan. It's another all new episode for us here, and I'm elated to talk to this next incredible guest. It's a man that I've been looking forward to talking in a while now, and I'm so elated, proud even to have him on. An hospitality service expert. He's the president of the Carlucci Hospitality Group, and obviously a golf lover. And he has a whole lot to tell us. And I love the fact that he's been in the hospitality dining business for over 45 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome to the Chronicle Podcast, Joe Carlucci. Joe Carlucci, welcome to the podcast. I really appreciate having you on
Yeah,
here.
both of my fans are cheering for us. There you go.
All right, so I just want to back into this. I know you just.
You know what? Doing a solo episode at the Chronicle Podcast is so. Oh, you never know what to expect in the Chronicle Podcast. Wow. Trip and play. They sent us a gift. Wow. Elevate your look, dominate the game. Let's see what they got for us. Our friends at Trip and Play always sending us things. Sorry for interrupting the episode, but we need to inform you that something great is happening here in the city of Calabar. They can send it to you nationwide, so don't worry about how am I going to get the thing. I love what you people have. I love this look. What is this? Let's see what we have. Oh wow, this is something very unique. I like the details. If you're someone that loves something that is unique, this is for you. And I love how they know what I might like. I love this brand. They know what to do. This is incredible. What is this? Okay, this is for my sports people that love sports. The embroidery is not even embroidery, like it's done in it. And I know I'm interrupting your episode, but with all I'm trying to say, these are the kind of packages you get. Tell them you are from Hello Media. Samuel Ryan sent you the Chronicle Podcast, all the episodes you have here. So Trip and Play, their QR code for their WhatsApp, the QR code for their TikTok is available here. Their numbers are displayed here. I'm trying to get that ready. Please support Trip and Play. Go check them out, and they actually send it to you nationwide. Back to the episode.
Just got back from a summer trip with the family and everything, and
Yeah.
I know the pause, the reset, and everything comes to shifting. But like before we talk about work and everything, how was the trip, and what does it mean for you to go on this family reset and everything? And for those that don't know how to take a vacation or don't know how to take a break and a breather, I mean, what can you tell us about taking that reset for yourself and the family?
Well, first of all, the trip was a great trip because I'm living in Chicago and I'm from New York, so it's always great to go back and visit family. On this particular occasion, my daughter just had baby twins, so we, my wife, my other son, and my son, and my other daughter, we all went to spend time with our grandchildren and cousins, so nephews and nieces. So we have a big family there, and it was terrific. I wouldn't say it was relaxing, but it was great. It's always great to be around family, as you probably know. But we had a great time, and that's all that matters. Like, it's in spite of being very busy and not a lot of time to relax, I came back refreshed because, I was ecstatic that, I see a new beginning to an extended family. So it was great. It was a great experience. Thank you for asking.
And I appreciate that. And I just wanted to give you your flowers and acknowledge you for, getting to do this with me, because I understood reaching out and wanting to get this done and all the unforeseen circumstances that we had, and just getting to reach out and you finally making this happen. I really appreciate it. I wanted to take time to acknowledge you for the opportunity to get to talk to you. And I love every moment that we're about to have here. No, you can continue. You can go on.
How much I love your enthusiasm, and it's contagious, and I think it's great.
I mean, it's not always every day like this, but I get to, because this is one of the things. This is one of the things I do enjoy, because we had an historian from UK join us the other episode, and him just like you have, and he was talking about like what it means to meet people and connect and have a conversation. And what does it mean to be you? I did ask him that question. What does it mean to be you? And getting to hear different perspective, that's what makes this incredible, because sometimes I'm like, I might not be able to be opportune to get into rooms and into spaces that I might get to access people like him, people like you right now on this session with me. But the opportunity to have something like this and getting to have that first class ticket, because if this was a master class, I'll have to pay a whole lot to even get in on the, I mean, I'm sitting here with a 35-year plus experience. That is something I don't play with, and I do appreciate. And I just wanted to, get in straight up to the what brought us to the dance. I mean, you've been in this particular business for 35 years. Like how did you even get here? And it while researching for this, the very first thing that came to my mind was, that's like an entrepreneurial area, because I'm like 35 years. I try to rewind the clock back to 35 years. I'm like, this will be the time where like, oh, you have to get the blue collar jobs and everything, and then you decided to get into the, like, how did you even go here, enter into this side of the business when everybody was, like, I believe at that time, even up to my own time, it's more of like, oh, you got to have something very secured. And I don't know the dynamic of what you do fully, and I would want to give you the opportunity to to take me on a masterclass and let me in on everything. Joe Carlucci.
There we go. This journey kind of started a long time ago. My older sister was working at an advertising agency, and her group was responsible for bringing out a major soap brand called Ivory Soap. Okay. Or not Ivory Soap, Irish Spring Soap. And while I was still in college, and I saw this, I saw this guy leaving the meeting, and he was a really cool guy, dressed cool, acted cool, and I said to my sister, I said, what does that guy do? And she said, oh, he's an entrepreneur. And I go, well, that's what I want to be then. I didn't even know how to spell it. Wow. But
oh my God.
And my father was a dentist. So in a way, he was an entrepreneur as well. So we all grew up around, people that own their own businesses. And, so whether it was intentional or absorbed, the ideas were, okay, let's figure out at some point in our life how to do that. And after I got out of college, I went to work for a well-known music person by the name of Dick Clark. And he had a concert production company. So we produced, during my almost 8-year time there, probably 1,200 concerts. And, you learn a lot about risk, and you learn a lot about evaluating risk and understanding what people like, how they like it, and how can you bring things to them. So I was always moving forward. I was always looking at what people liked rather than what I like to give them. And so when that ended, somebody I knew was in the bar business, and he said, why don't you come to Chicago? Maybe we can open a bar here. And I go, okay. I didn't know what I wanted to do at that point. And, so the restaurant just kind of morphed into that. It was very, it was just an interesting progression. And when we opened our first restaurant, it was very busy at the right time. And, it was an emerging neighborhood. It was a gentrifying neighborhood. A lot of young people were moving into the neighborhood. It was a great old Bow Trust building. The architecture everything about it worked. And I had no idea what I was doing. So it was kind of like earn while you learn. And and I really liked it. I very much enjoyed, owning a restaurant. And so the progression was like yours or mine or anybody else's, is how do you get really good at what you do? And that never stops. It never stops. And that's what keeps you interested, as long as I was doing it. And, now, I've kind of taken some of the things I learned in the restaurant, industry over to the golf side, because golf courses are terrible at food and beverage in general. you could go play a great golf course, and then at the end of the day, you want to walk into a, equally fun environment and have a great experience at the end of the day. And 99% of the places we went to, never offered it up to me or us as a group. Even if we were on vacations, resorts didn't do it either. And we'd always wind up leaving the golf resort and the golf courses and going down, I call it down the street. We're going somewhere a couple of miles away to go enjoy, a couple of beers and dinner or whatever else we're going to do for the night. So, so I started talking about that to some golf courses, and eventually they hired me on to prove my point, and I did. And that's where I'm spending a lot of my time right now, is convincing golf courses that they need to match the experience of the golf course in food and beverage. So, and by the way, they'll make a lot more money dealing.
Yeah, that's amazing, because while researching for this, I saw your 19-hole philosophy about like everything, the post game hangout, into the, like, you trying to want to create something that, the post game hangout, wanting it to be highly profitable, like the memorable experience you want to create around that. And I'm not a golf guy, I don't know much about it, but I was intrigued about wanting to understand why why something that wasn't already happening, and I was shocked. And I wanted to ask you, what are the mistakes you see country clubs making when they try to upgrade their hospitality services, and like without really giving away all of your game, like what are you like trying to see?
No, but you see,
all right,
you said you weren't a golf guy. See, we create atmospheres for people that aren't golf guys to enjoy. So that's the key. At the end of the day, these places are just bars and restaurants. At private clubs, for example, they take themselves a little too seriously. And I put some of the blame, not all of it, but some of the blame on designers and architects who, put food and beverage into their design second. They don't understand that these are revenue producing spaces, profit and loss producing spaces, and these are places for people to gather. These are people from everybody within their community to get together. And by the way, going back centuries, these are places to gather. These are places that people want to go gather, that they don't get an opportunity to see themselves, to wonder what's going on in the world. So having a great bar is first. The dining room is not secondary, but it's of equal importance. And, a lot of people don't view it that way. They view the dining room as the source of all their problems, and they spend money over there and, kind of forget about the bar, don't treat it as an equal sibling to each other. So, and the other part of it is these places don't hire people that have designed bars and restaurants for independent operators like I am. Those are the people that generate the whole hospitality community in their neighborhood. Why aren't you reaching out to those people for advice, for the people? Hey, I like this place. Who designed it? Can I talk to them about, what I'm doing? Because their competition is down the street. They're leaving millions of dollars on the table, neglecting that because they hired a nice interior designer that's never probably great at offices and homes, but don't have a clue about restaurants and bars. And they want to do things that make the customer happy and the club happy, but not the people that go to the club. So if, the thing I ask myself, if you weren't already here, would you come here on your own? And most of the people would say no. And, they're making $1 million mistakes by taking a point of view that, this is supposed to look like a club. It's supposed to act like a club, but it's really, at the end of the day, they take themselves too seriously. People want to have fun, and they want to have an experience. They just don't want to go somewhere and sit down at any kind of bar. They want to have a bar that's vibrant. They want to see people there. They want to catch up to their community. And that's what they are. I mean, these places should be great community assets for whether it's a private club or a public facility. Again, these are great civic assets to themselves or their community, and they should pay off. They're $1 million investments, multi-million-dollar investments. And for that, you just can't look away and say, how am I going to get my money back? Somewhere along the line, it has to add value. And listen, and I also come from a different perspective where I've risked millions of dollars doing places like this, and I've made mistakes, and I know why I made those mistakes. And I'm basically offering that up to these people for, hey, listen, that's not going to work. Here's why it's not going to work. I see it all the time. I've been to hundreds of restaurants, and you can almost walk in there and right away, whether you're going to like it or not. There are subliminal images that start out very strong the second you walk in, and you have to design that and think that in to whatever project you're working on. And people don't. And that's their flaw. And in my opinion, now other people, hospitality guys might take a different opinion, but that's mine. And I've been very successful. Even though it's only a short number of places I've done, the places that I've consulted on that I haven't operated or been directly involved with have all done well listening to me. So, and that's my passion. Golf is my passion. Food and beverage is my passion. I've been very lucky in life to work in two industries that are great common denominators to people: music and food. Everybody has a favorite song. You have a favorite song. You have a favorite food that you like to eat. It's a great, common denominator for us to start to get to know each other. Putting those two things together somehow makes me, and there, by the way, there are very few guys out there that are going around the country that have owned restaurants talking to golf courses about hospitality.
All right, so I get to listen to you, and I'm just picking things. And one of the key things I got from the thing you said was in terms of value, in terms of understanding the customer experience. You cherry pick from what I said, understand I'm not a golf guy. Well, what if I were to accompany somebody that is a golf person to go there for for golf, and then the post game we just want to have an experience? You understood the value of okay, so not just having a diner, can we have a theme? Can we have something that somebody can come in and not forget that, oh, at that place I went to, this is how I was treated, this is how, for somebody that I want to get into something like that, I want maybe some of the execs that don't understand what it means to because sometimes they will hear you say, let's look way into the little things, let's understand, let's think about those that might not have had the opportunity to be here and now they are here. How can we get them back? For someone that is out there, maybe not in the hospitality industry, maybe not in the golf, this thing, but they just want to break into something, and understanding value, understanding what it means to understand what problems can I solve. What can you tell anyone out there in terms of understanding how to navigate value, navigate getting hurt, and also moving about in terms of not trying to hit stills, but at the same time trying to understand, okay, this is of my own vision.
Well, are you asking me how I can encourage people to do what I do? I'm not sure I get the question, but something that you said resonated with me, because it's not just about getting people in, it's also getting people back. And that's the interesting point of everything that we do. Getting, there are two sides of the marketing: get people in and get people back. That's the real challenge. Getting them in the door is the hardest. Getting them back, not as hard, but hard. And you have to engage that experience and make this memorable. Going to a well, you're not anywhere where there's baseball, but what, is soccer a big thing where you are?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So you go to a soccer game. What makes the soccer game memorable besides the game? That's not enough anymore. You have to have great food there, wider seats. The people that are making stadiums understand
the people
how to generate the experience, and not just in the single formation of why you're there. People don't go to restaurants to eat. They don't. They go to socialize mostly, or to do business, or to just want to get out of their house. So they're not what they do when they get there. But it's the same thing as going to a baseball game. Going to a baseball game, you spend a lot of money going to a baseball game or a soccer game. But when you get there, you can't say no more. You can't say that, is this it? There has to be something more, and there always has to be more than enough. And that's where the creating the experience comes in, and you have to recognize what people are expecting. They're not you can't just say they're going to go see a great game, because they don't know. It's not a controllable. So what you can control, you should control. And you can control atmosphere, and you can control environment and service. And like I said, wider seats, better hospitality, friendlier people smiling, people engaging, having a good time, because you're there. You spent a lot of money to get there. And if it was a great experience, you'll go back again, even though the game might not be as good, but the experience was. And that's what I'm trying to, kind of instill with the people that I talk to about why people want to go to golf courses instead of, I'm talking about public courses right now, but why would they want to come to this place to go eat versus a restaurant down the street or a bar down the street to have a beer with their neighbor? And that's what we do. And like I said before, there's a lot of risk associated with owning restaurants and bars and banquet halls or anything like that associated with hospitality. So you have to be pretty confident that the thoughts and decisions you're making are going to be beneficial both for you, your family, mostly for the customer. Otherwise, you'll never, see a return on your investment.
I appreciate that, but I think one of the things I would also wanted to get in on is, you talked about, getting people on the door, in the door is hard. Maybe trying to get them back in might not be hard, but it's hard. I would want you to expand on that for someone that maybe owns a business and it's like, how can I get, especially with the way the world is now, with social media, with different rules for different social media, with the way everything is structured now. What are the ways in your own, obviously in terms of giving game, how can people get people in the door, and how can they maintain those people they get in the door? What are your takes on that? So for someone that maybe owns a business or is trying to get breakouts there in terms of what they are doing.
Yeah, trying to it's all marketing. Basically, I mean, you have to let's just say you're starting your first business. It doesn't necessarily have to be restaurants, but somebody has to know. There's no sense. You can't have a business without having sales or clients. So how are you going to get clients? How are you going to get sales? How are you going to get customers into your restaurant? That there's a marketing piece to that, and there's advertising, marketing, and public relations. All of that, kind of has to flow into some organized pattern of putting your message out. So social media is clearly one of the best vehicles now to do that, because not everybody reads the newspaper anymore. Not everybody watches television anymore. Listens to the radio anymore. Traditional media is very different. So, social media is a great way to do that. And, but you still, there's still everybody says social media is free. It's not. Somebody has to create content. Somebody has to be paid to put it out. Somebody has to be, there are ads that are associated with putting things on social media. And, social media is just not free, but, you have to make a commitment to market yourself. And that's the key. So yourself or your business. So why are people going to come to you? That's up to you. You can't just say I'm open, I was an accountant and now I'm open for business. You have to walk in there. If nobody knows what you do, you have to go knock on doors. You have to put some ads in social media. There are a lot of things that you can do, and when we do it with our restaurants, and I do it somewhat with my consulting company. I have a marketing company that knows where to find my customers, and that was restaurants especially have to have strong marketing because there's so many places, especially in Chicago, opening up. You have to stay relevant and in front of people all the time. So, what is your brand? What is your message? How do you control it? I think that getting your first customer is always the most expensive one. Even when you're not working, you're thinking about it. That's commitment. And by the way, what nobody talks about very much when we talk about business is the importance of your family and helping you. If they don't support, it's you're facing a headwind, and having a supportive wife and supportive children, who like what you do, encourage what you do, is very important. It's unspoken about a lot, but it shouldn't be because it's very meaningful and impactful.
And that brings me to the legacy side of things. I mean, so Joe Carlucci, who do you have in your corner? Like you did mention about family. I know I've not gone in on that angle, but in the aspect of family, what can you tell us about your family, your family circle? Because I think those are the people you have in your corner. You talk about support. You talk about having those people that support you and everything. And I want to, if you would please, tell us a little bit about family.
No, it's important. It's important to believe in your vision. Here's what I'm setting out to do. Are you okay with that? And I'm not asking you to help me. I'm just asking you to support me. And when I need support and encouragement, you're there. You're not there saying, "Why did you do this? How much money did you spend? What's going to happen to us?" You can't have somebody sowing doubt with that. And that's why I say, your wife is your partner. That's a huge, huge thing. And they encourage you. They might not believe you all the time, but they encourage you nonetheless. They're as much along for the ride as you are. And having your kids proud of what you do and like what you do and see what you do. And by the way, the fact that and at this point, doesn't mean that along the way, I didn't get some black eyes, and there's nobody in our business that has escaped some sort of. I wouldn't call it failures. I just call them things that didn't work out the way they wanted them to work out. So, when things aren't, nobody bats it down. Even the most successful guys learned along the way. What mistakes they made. Mistakes. And in my particular case, my mistakes, and some of mine and investors. So, and it's been a great journey, but it's always there that what you're doing. But there's and that's why part of the reason why you really have to be committed to what you're doing, because it's not just you doing it; it's everybody associated with you is doing it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, but psychology, in terms of biggest lessons you've learned in life, what is the biggest lesson life has taught you so far?
I don't know about my biggest lesson in life, but my biggest thing in life for me personally is just to be open to it. You know,
Okay.
you'll just like, again, I'll go back to what you do. You're opening up yourself to a lot of different thoughts and a lot of different people. But it's I would just lead my life. I do lead my life. Any kind of an opportunity that walks, whether you want to meet interesting people, opportunities aren't always business, they're personal too. And you can be open to people around you and be successful with a larger group or a smaller group of friends. But you can't close people down. And, I see some people, because I've met thousands of people over the course of my restaurant life and my music. I see people, they leave breadcrumbs about why they're good at what they do. And it's not always that they're the most brilliant. They just could be the best personality. Could be that people are attracted to them for whatever reason. And there's no one direct path to success. There's so many different ways to achieve success that this is my story. You'll hear 100 other stories that'll tell you something different. So the path to success is wide open for anybody, and that's probably what I think about the most. Is there's no specific way to achieve what I want to achieve. There are a lot of ways to achieve what I want to achieve, but the big word there is achievement. I want to set out to achieve something. You have to have the mindset that you're going to be good at what you do, no matter what it is.
So I see, I hear you. I've been here with you. We navigating conversations here, and I couldn't help but my eyebrow raised a bit when you said, work is fun. My work is fun, and we don't have too many people saying their work life is fun out there. I mean, you can take it from me, like I think this brings this question for me. Like, I mean, if you like, what makes it so fun for you? When it comes to, because we have people that are like, oh, it's Monday, I can't wait to, oh my goodness, I'm dying.
Listen, Samuel, you look like you're having fun. I mean, think of what you're accomplishing. You're talking to somebody in a different continent, on a different continent. You're spreading your name all around the world, I hope. And, that's going to eventually come back to you. I mean, that takes a lot of ambition and breaking down fears of whom you're talking to and how do you get your message out to people about what you do and what other people do to be successful. I'm assuming that that's what you're trying to accomplish with your podcast. Is how do you get different voices in different parts of the world to be successful and happy, and and figure out ways that you can enjoy what you do and your family along, and have great family values along with it. And so I think what you're doing is phenomenal, and I appreciate you taking me along on your journey, and sometimes, some way that it'll I don't know how or ever, but our paths will cross personally. So I give you a big hug.
Yeah. All right. So in terms of advice for someone out there that might just be they have what they actually wanted to do in life, but they have to do what they have to do at the time, and they're just trying, scratching, putting out, how can I take it big leap and everything? How can I move into the next dimension of myself? What is the advice you can give to someone like that? And was thinking and thinking, when do I make the move? How do I make the move? What do they need to do? What technologies do they need to do to be able to make it to the next level that they are trying to do?
You're asking finite questions. Giving advice is difficult. And it's like my advice, is germane to some of the things that I do, but not to everyone. And I would be accepting of, keep your eyes, your ears open and your mouth shut would be, my biggest advice to people. And just keep, like I said, keep absorbing all you can, and keep reaching out, keep learning, keep meeting people, keep expanding. You know, the biggest thing you have in life are your contacts. And, you know, growing your contact base is very big, you know, and it might not seem relevant to everything you do, but you know they're there in case something you need to at some point in time. So, you know, it's like people want to meet you too. You know, here I'm a restaurant guy. People want to say hello to me, not because I'm a restaurant guy, just because I happen to cross their paths. You can sense those people right away. Contact list of, you know, what people around them are doing, you know, how they're doing it. And like I said, successful people leave breadcrumbs along why they're and you know, and they're all different. So, you know, follow the road. You'll get there. And like I said, 5-mile journey is done 1 mile at a time. It's not always easy.
Yeah. I mean, you've said that too many times here on this podcast that I would not want to not take that. That's it. Try to leave breadcrumbs. Try to close your mouth, shut your mouth, and listen, and try to watch them. You know, learn along the way, and that's like an amazing thing. And talk about breadcrumbs coming into the conversation. So, psychology,
well, you know,
Eve, please.
You know, you really, you know, by putting yourself out there and learning from people. Again, I keep using the word absorb, but some of that's going to absorb into everything that you're thinking and doing. You know, maybe after all this, you're figuring, hey, you know, my podcaster might not be the way, but something I learned from podcasting is going to be the way. You know, you just can't. You have to keep your eyes open for all opportunities.
Yes, I do appreciate that. And I do appreciate that. And I do tell all the that I get the opportunity to talk on, whether physical or virtually. And when I'm in that conversation, I'm in that moment, I'm like, this is also my moment, as much as it's for the viewers and the listeners. But I take it too for me. I'm like, this is my own learning masterclass. This is my own time to, so I'm gonna take it all in. So without keeping you immediately.
The other thing I didn't get to was, okay, I'm here for you to help me. How can I help you? And people should always be asking that question too. You know, it's not a one-way street, this journey. You know, I want to help you the way you just help me. So let me know how I can do
all
that.
Right. So I will right when we are done with this conversation, I'm gonna talk to you after this. This is this one also. Yeah.
Take care. This was great. I love being with you. And
last conversation.
I look forward. Take care, man.
Thank you, sir.